Marcus, please, just give me 5 more minutes to explain. Explain what, Elena? That you've been lying to me for months? That everything about us was fake? Marcus Richardson's voice echoed through the marble lobby of the Grandview Hotel, drawing stares from every guest within earshot. His designer suit couldn't hide the contempt radiating from his perfectly sculpted face as he looked down at the woman who'd been his fiancée just hours ago. Elena Rossetti stood frozen in her emerald evening gown, her dark hair still perfectly styled from what was supposed to be their engagement party upstairs. The weight of 200 pairs of eyes bore down on her as Marcus's words sliced through the air like daggers. Her hands trembled as she clutched her small purse, the engagement ring he'd just thrown at her feet glinting mockingly on the pristine marble floor. "I trusted you," Marcus continued, his voice rising with each word. "I was going to marry you, Elena, make you the mother of my children. And all this time you've been nothing but a gold-digging liar who can't even tell me the truth about her own family." Elena's face flushed crimson as whispers rippled through the crowd. She could see people pulling out their phones, recording her humiliation for social media. At 32, she thought she'd found her happily ever after with Marcus. They'd been together for 2 years, and she'd genuinely believed he loved her despite her modest background, working as an art curator at a small gallery downtown. "That's not fair," she whispered, but her voice was lost in the cavernous lobby. "I never lied about loving you." Marcus laughed bitterly. "Love? You don't even know what that word means. You saw my bank account and my family name, and you played your part perfectly. The sweet, innocent artist who just happened to stumble into my life at that charity auction." Elena felt tears pricking her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of all these people who were watching her personal life implode like it was dinner theater. "I never asked you for anything, Marcus. Not once." "No, you were much smarter than that, weren't you? You let me shower you with gifts, take you on expensive trips, introduce you to my business partners and family. You were playing the long game, waiting for the ring and the wedding, so you could take half of everything I've worked for." The accusation hit Elena like a physical blow. She'd grown up in a small apartment above her grandmother's bakery in Little Italy, working 2 jobs to put herself through art school. She'd never cared about Marcus's money, at least not the way he was suggesting. Yes, she'd enjoyed the security it provided, the ability to help her aging grandmother with medical bills, but she'd fallen in love with the man she thought he was, not his trust fund. "That's enough," she said, finding her voice in some semblance of dignity. "I don't know what's brought this on, Marcus, but I won't stand here and let you humiliate me like this." "Humiliate you?" Marcus stepped closer, his blue eyes cold as ice. "You humiliated yourself the moment you walked into my life under false pretenses. Did you really think I wouldn't find out about your family's connections? About what your real last name means in this city?" Elena's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb with me, Elena Rossetti. Or should I say, Elena Rossetti, granddaughter of Vincent the Baker Rossetti, who ran numbers for the Torino family for 30 years before he died." The lobby fell completely silent, except for the soft jazz music still playing from hidden speakers. Elena felt the world tilt on its axis. Her grandmother had always been vague about her late husband's work, saying only that he'd done whatever it took to provide for his family during hard times. I didn't know," she stammered. "My grandmother never told me." "Of course she didn't. She let you grow up thinking you were just another working-class girl trying to make it in the big city. But the Richardson family doesn't associate with criminals, Elena. We have a reputation to maintain, political aspirations to consider. I can't have a wife whose family has ties to organized crime." Elena wanted to argue, to defend the grandmother who'd raised her with love and kindness, who'd taught her to work hard and treat others with respect. But the words wouldn't come. She was drowning in shame and confusion, surrounded by strangers who were drinking in every moment of her downfall. Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick envelope. "This should cover your expenses for the next few months while you find somewhere else to live. Consider it a severance package for services rendered." He dropped the envelope at her feet next to the engagement ring, and Elena stared down at it in horror. 2 years of what she'd thought was love, reduced to a payoff in a hotel lobby. "Don't," she whispered, but Marcus was already turning away. "Security will pack up your things from my penthouse and deliver them to your grandmother's place. Don't try to contact me again, Elena. It's over." With that, Marcus Richardson walked away, his footsteps echoing across the marble as he headed toward the elevator bank. The crowd began to disperse. Their free entertainment concluded, leaving Elena standing alone in the center of the lobby like a discarded prop from a play that had already ended. She stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, staring at the money and ring at her feet. The humiliation was so complete, so overwhelming, that she felt disconnected from her own body. This morning she'd been planning a wedding, choosing flowers and tasting cakes. Tonight she was homeless, and apparently the granddaughter of a criminal. Quite a performance. The voice was low, gravelly, with just a hint of an accent she couldn't place. Elena looked up to find a man standing a few feet away, studying her with dark, intense eyes that seemed to see straight through her soul. He was tall, probably 6'3", with broad shoulders that filled out his impeccably tailored black suit. His dark hair was styled back from a face that belonged in a Renaissance painting, all sharp angles and masculine beauty, with just enough scars to suggest a dangerous past. "Excuse me?" Elena's voice came out as a croak. The stranger stepped closer, and she caught a hint of expensive cologne mixed with something darker, cigarettes maybe, or whiskey. "Your ex-fiancé, quite the showman, though I have to say, his timing could use some work." Elena felt heat rise in her cheeks again. "Were you watching the whole time?" "Hard not to. Richardson has a voice that carries." The man's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, though I suspect that was intentional. "Are you a friend of his?" Elena asked, wondering if this was another humiliation waiting to happen. "No." The single word was definitive, final. "Marcus Richardson and I don't exactly travel in the same circles?" Something in his tone made Elena look at him more closely. This wasn't a man who attended charity galas or played golf at country clubs. There was something predatory in the way he moved, something that suggested violence was never far from the surface. Yet when he looked at her, she didn't feel afraid. "I should go," she said, suddenly aware that she was still standing in the middle of the hotel lobby, having a conversation with a complete stranger while her life fell apart around her. "Where?" The question was simple, but it stopped Elena cold. Where, indeed. Marcus had been right about one thing. She'd been living in his penthouse for the past year. Her old apartment was long gone, rented to someone else. She could go to her grandmother's, but the elderly woman lived in a tiny studio apartment that barely had room for one person, let alone two. "I'll figure something out," Elena said, more to herself than to the stranger. "I'm sure you will. But first, why don't you let me buy you a drink? You look like you could use one." Elena shook her head. "I don't even know your name." "Dante Torino." The name hit Elena like a thunderbolt. Even she, sheltered as she'd apparently been from her family's past, had heard whispers of the Torino family. They weren't just criminals, they were the criminals, the ones who'd run this city's underworld for decades. "Oh God," she breathed. "You're the man offering you a drink," Dante finished calmly. "Nothing more, nothing less." Elena's mind raced. Marcus had just accused her of having family connections to the mob, and now she was standing face to face with what was quite possibly the most dangerous man in the city. It was like some cosmic joke. "This is insane," she muttered. "This whole night is insane." "Sanity is overrated," Dante said. "Trust me, I know." Despite everything, the humiliation, the fear, the complete upheaval of everything she'd thought she knew about her life, Elena found herself almost smiling. There was something about this man's complete calm in the face of chaos that was oddly comforting. "One drink," she heard herself say. Dante nodded and gestured toward the hotel's bar. "After you." As they walked across the lobby, Elena became aware of how people moved out of their way, how conversations stopped, and eyes followed Dante's progress through the room. This was a man who commanded respect through presence alone, and Elena found herself walking straighter, her chin lifting as she matched his confident stride. The hotel bar was dimly lit and sophisticated, all dark wood and brass fixtures that spoke of old money and older secrets. Dante guided her to a booth in the back corner, away from prying eyes and curious ears. A waitress appeared almost instantly, as if she'd been waiting for his arrival. 2 whiskeys. The good stuff, Dante said without consulting Elena. I don't usually drink whiskey, Elena protested. Tonight seems like a good night to start. When their drinks arrived, Dante raised his glass. To new beginnings. Elena clinked her glass against his, surprised by how steady her hand was. The whiskey burned going down, but it was a clean burn, warming her from the inside out. So, Dante said, settling back in the booth, tell me about your grandfather. Elena nearly choked on her second sip. I thought you wanted to buy me a drink, not interrogate me. Who says I can't do both? There was something in his tone that made Elena look at him more carefully. You knew him, didn't you? My grandfather. Dante was quiet for a long moment, studying her face in the low light. Vincent Rossetti was a good man who did what he had to do to survive. He worked for my family, yes, but he was never a criminal. He ran a legitimate business and occasionally helped us with information. Nothing more. Marcus made it sound like he was some kind of gangster. Marcus Richardson wouldn't know a real gangster if one bit him on his privileged ass, Dante said with disgust. Your grandfather was a baker who happened to have ears and eyes in the right places. He helped keep peace in the neighborhood, made sure kids had food when their parents couldn't afford it. The man was practically a saint. Elena felt tears threaten again, but this time they were tears of relief rather than humiliation. I wish I'd known him. He died when you were very young, but he talked about you constantly. His little artist granddaughter who was going to paint her way to a better life. Dante's expression softened slightly. He'd be proud of what you've accomplished. What I've accomplished. Elena laughed bitterly. I just got publicly humiliated and thrown out on the street. Some accomplishment. You survived 2 years with Marcus Richardson without losing yourself completely. That's more than most people could manage. Elena stared at him. You really don't like him, do you? Dante's smile was sharp as a blade. Marcus Richardson represents everything that's wrong with this city. Old money, older prejudices, and the belief that a trust fund makes you better than everyone else. Men like him look down on families like mine, call us criminals and thugs, while they steal millions through legal loopholes and political corruption. Are you a criminal? Elena asked, surprised by her own boldness. Dante considered the question seriously. I operate outside the law when necessary. I protect my family, my territory, and the people under my care. If that makes me a criminal, then yes. It should have frightened her. Elena knew she should finish her drink, thank him politely, and walk away. Instead, she found herself leaning forward, drawn in by his honesty. Why are you being so kind to me? You don't know me. I know enough. I know you loved a man who didn't deserve it. I know you've been helping your grandmother with her medical bills while he accused you of being a gold digger. I know you work 60-hour weeks at that gallery for barely enough to live on, but you do it because you're passionate about art. Elena's eyes widened. How do you know all that? I make it my business to know what happens in my city, especially when it involves the granddaughter of an old friend. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping their whiskey as the bar filled up with the late evening crowd. Elena found herself studying Dante's face, noting the small scar that cut through his left eyebrow. The way his eyes never stopped moving, always aware of his surroundings. What happens now? She asked eventually. What do you want to happen? Elena laughed, but it came out sounding hollow. I want to rewind this entire day. I want to go back to this morning when the biggest problem in my life was choosing between roses and peonies for my wedding bouquet. And if you can't go back? Elena considered the question seriously. What did she want, really? Not Marcus, she realized. The man who'd humiliated her tonight wasn't someone she'd ever truly known. The real Marcus had revealed himself to be shallow, cruel, and cowardly. The kind of man who'd investigate his fiancé's dead grandfather instead of simply asking her about her family. "I want to matter," she said finally. "I want to be with someone who sees me as more than just a pretty accessory or a potential liability." Dante leaned across the table, his dark eyes intense. "You matter, Elena. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." The way he said her name, with that slight accent and complete sincerity, sent shivers down her spine. Elena had never been attracted to dangerous men. She'd always preferred the safe, predictable types like Marcus. But there was something about Dante Torino that called to a part of her she'd never acknowledged before. "I should probably find a hotel room," she said, glancing at her. "Watch." It was nearly midnight. "Already taken care of." Elena blinked. "What?" "The penthouse suite. It's yours for as long as you need it." "I can't accept that. I don't even know you, and I certainly can't afford—" "It's not about what you can afford. It's about what you deserve." Dante finished his whiskey and stood up. "Come on, let me walk you up." Elena wanted to argue, but the truth was she had nowhere else to go, and the thought of wandering the streets looking for a hotel room at midnight wasn't appealing. She followed Dante to the elevator, acutely aware of the way other patrons watched them leave together. The penthouse suite was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, luxurious furnishings that probably cost more than Elena made in a year, and a bedroom larger than her grandmother's entire apartment. "This is too much," Elena protested as Dante showed her around. "Nothing's too much for Vincent Rossetti's granddaughter," Dante said firmly. "Besides, I own the hotel. It's not like I'm paying for it." Elena stared at him. "You own this hotel?" "Among other things." Dante moved toward the door, then paused. "There are clothes in the closet that should fit you, and anything you need can be ordered from room service. Just tell them to put it on the house account." "Dante, I can't—" He turned back to her, and the intensity in his dark eyes made her breath catch. "Yes, you can. You've spent 2 years letting another man make decisions for you, control your life. Let me take care of you, Elena. Not because you can't take care of yourself, but because you shouldn't have to." With that, he was gone, leaving Elena alone in a penthouse suite that felt like something out of a fairy tale. She walked to the window and looked out over the city lights, trying to process everything that had happened in the space of a few hours. This morning she'd been Elena Morrison, soon-to-be wife of Marcus Richardson. Tonight she was Elena Rossetti, granddaughter of a man with mob connections under the protection of the most dangerous crime boss in the city. And somehow, despite the chaos and uncertainty, she felt more like herself than she had in months. Elena spent the next 3 days in a strange kind of limbo. During the day, she went to work at the gallery, trying to pretend her life hadn't been completely upended. Her co-workers had heard about the broken engagement, of course. News traveled fast in their social circle, but they were kind enough not to pry too deeply. In the evenings, she returned to the penthouse suite, where she found herself looking forward to Dante's visits. He came by each night around 9, sometimes with dinner from expensive restaurants, sometimes just to talk. They discussed art, books, the city's history, carefully dancing around the obvious attraction building between them. On the 4th night, Elena was waiting for him with a bottle of wine she'd bought with her own money, and a dinner she'd cooked herself using ingredients from the hotel's gourmet grocery service. "You didn't have to do this," Dante said when he saw the table she'd set on the suite's balcony, complete with candles and fresh flowers. "I wanted to. I don't like feeling like a kept woman." Dante's expression darkened. "Is that what you think you are?" "Aren't I?" Elena challenged. "Beautiful woman, expensive hotel suite, powerful man taking care of all her needs. It has all the hallmarks." "No," Dante said firmly, moving closer to her. "A kept woman is someone who trades her body for security, who pretends to care about a man she can't stand because he pays her bills." "Is that what you're doing, Elena?" Elena's heart was pounding as he approached. "No." "Then what are you doing?" "I'm trying to figure out who I am without Marcus. I'm trying to understand why my grandmother never told me about my grandfather, and I'm trying very hard not to think about how much I look forward to seeing you every night." Dante stopped just inches away from her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. And how's that working out for you? Not very well, Elena admitted. Dante reached up and cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs tracing her cheekbones with surprising gentleness. Good, because I've been going crazy thinking about you. When he kissed her, it was nothing like the polite, controlled kisses she'd shared with Marcus. This was fire and passion and need, the kind of kiss that made her knees weak and her heart race. Elena found herself pressing against him, her hands fisting in his shirt as she kissed him back with an enthusiasm that surprised them both. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "This is complicated," Elena whispered. "Everything worth having is complicated. I'm not like the women you usually date." Dante laughed, a low, rumbling sound that vibrated through his chest. "Sweetheart, I don't date. I have arrangements, transactions, mutually beneficial relationships. I've never dated anyone." Elena pulled back to look at him. "Then what is this?" "This is me falling for a woman who makes me want to be better than I am. This is me wanting to give you everything Marcus Richardson was too stupid to appreciate. This is me completely out of my depth and not caring because you're worth it." Elena felt tears prick her eyes, but this time they were happy tears. "Dante, I know it's fast. I know your life just got turned upside down, and the last thing you need is more complications. But I can't pretend I don't feel this, Elena. I can't pretend that seeing you hurting doesn't make me want to burn down half the city." "Marcus was right about one thing," Elena said softly. "Dating you is dangerous." "Not for you. Never for you." Elena believed him. Despite everything she'd heard about the Torino family, despite the obvious danger that surrounded Dante's world, she felt safer with him than she ever had with Marcus. "Show me," she whispered. Dante's eyes darkened with desire and something deeper. "Are you sure?" Instead of answering, Elena rose up on her toes and kissed him again, pouring all her feelings into the contact. Dante groaned against her lips and swept her up in his arms, carrying her into the bedroom as if she weighed nothing at all. They made love with a passion Elena had never experienced before, tender and fierce by turns, as if they were trying to communicate everything they couldn't yet say out loud. Afterward, Elena lay curled against Dante's chest, listening to his heartbeat and marveling at how right it felt to be in his arms. "What happens now?" she asked, echoing her question from their first night. "Now we figure it out together," Dante said, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "If you want to." "I want to," Elena said without hesitation. "But I need to do something first." The next morning, Elena took a taxi to her grandmother's apartment in Little Italy. Maria Rossetti was a tiny woman with silver hair and sharp eyes who still moved with the energy of someone half her age. She took one look at Elena's face and immediately put the kettle on for tea. "You look different, Piccola," her grandmother said in her accented English. "Something has changed." Elena told her everything. About Marcus, about the accusations, about meeting Dante and learning the truth about her grandfather. Maria listened without interruption, occasionally nodding or making soft sounds of understanding. "I should have told you," Maria said finally, "about your nonno, about the family. But I wanted you to have choices, to make your own way in the world without the weight of the past holding you back. Tell me now," Elena said. "Tell me about him." Maria smiled, her eyes growing distant with memory. "Vincent was the kindest man I ever knew. Yes, he worked with the Torinos, but only because they protected our neighborhood when no one else would. The police didn't care what happened in Little Italy in those days. We had to take care of ourselves." She went on to tell Elena stories about her grandfather, how he'd given away free bread during the Depression, how he'd hidden Jewish families in his bakery during the war, how he'd worked with Dante's grandfather to keep drugs out of their neighborhood and ensure children could walk the streets safely. "He would have loved Dante's boy," Maria said with a knowing smile. "That one has his grandfather's honor and his father's strength. He will be good to you, I think." "How did you know?" Elena asked. "Because you glow when you speak of him, the way I used to glow when I spoke of your nonno." Love recognizes love, Piccola. Elena hugged her grandmother tightly, finally feeling like she understood where she came from and who she was meant to be. That evening, she cooked dinner in the penthouse kitchen, wearing one of the dresses Dante had somehow procured, in her exact size. When he arrived, she was waiting with champagne and a smile that made him stop in his tracks. "You look happy," he observed. "I am happy. I talked to my grandmother today. And she told me about my grandfather, about your grandfather, about how some families choose to build something together instead of tearing each other down." Dante set down the flowers he'd brought her and moved closer. "Is that what you want to do? Build something together?" "Yes," Elena said without hesitation. "If you're willing to be patient with me while I figure out how to be part of your world." "Our world," Dante corrected. "And we'll figure it out together." They had dinner on the balcony again, talking and laughing as the sun set over the city. Elena felt lighter than she had in months, as if she'd finally found where she belonged. "There's something I need to tell you," Dante said as they lingered over dessert. Elena felt a flutter of anxiety. "What?" "Marcus Richardson has been trying to cause problems for my businesses, calling in favors with his political friends, making accusations about money laundering and tax evasion." Elena's heart sank. "Because of me." "Because he's a vindictive child who can't stand being told no," Dante corrected. "This isn't your fault, Elena. What are you going to do?" Dante's smile was predatory. "I'm going to remind him why it's not wise to make an enemy of the Torino family." Elena reached across the table and took his hand. "Don't hurt him. Please. He's not worth it." "I won't hurt him," Dante promised, "but I will make sure he understands the consequences of his actions." 3 days later, Elena was at the gallery when Marcus Richardson walked in. He looked terrible, haggard, like he hadn't slept in days. Several customers looked up with interest, recognizing him from the society pages. "Elena, we need to talk," Marcus said without preamble. "I don't think we do," Elena replied calmly, continuing to arrange a display of contemporary sculptures. "Please, just 5 minutes." Elena glanced around the gallery, aware of the attention they were drawing. "Fine, but not here." She led him to the small office in the back, closing the door behind them. "You have to call him off," Marcus said immediately. "Your boyfriend, he's destroying me." Elena raised an eyebrow. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb, Elena. 3 of my biggest investors have pulled out in the last 2 days. The bank is reviewing my loans. Someone's been making calls, spreading rumors about my business practices." "Maybe they're not rumors," Elena suggested. Marcus flushed red. "This is about revenge, isn't it? You couldn't stand being rejected, so you ran straight to the nearest criminal who would take you in." Elena felt her temper flare. "You rejected me? That's an interesting way to describe publicly humiliating someone in a hotel lobby." "I was angry. I said things I didn't mean." "No, Marcus. You said exactly what you meant. You showed me who you really are. Someone who investigates his fiancée instead of trusting her. Someone who cares more about appearances than the person he claims to love." "I was trying to protect you," Marcus protested. "Do you have any idea how dangerous Dante Torino is? He's killed people, Elena. With his own hands." Elena felt a chill run down her spine, but she kept her expression neutral. "My personal life is no longer your concern. He'll get tired of you eventually. Men like him always do. And when that happens, you'll have nothing left. If that's true, then I'll deal with it when it happens. But at least I'll know what it feels like to be with someone who actually sees me as an equal partner, instead of a pretty accessory." Marcus stared at her for a long moment. "You've changed." "Yes, I have. I've remembered who I was before I started trying to be the woman I thought you wanted." Marcus left after that, and Elena didn't see him again. 2 weeks later, she heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd moved to Los Angeles, claiming he wanted to expand his business interest on the West Coast. Elena suspected Dante had made him an offer he couldn't refuse, but when she asked, Dante just smiled and changed the subject. Life settled into a new rhythm after that. Elena kept working at the gallery, but Dante surprised her by purchasing the building and offering to make her a partner in expanding it into a full cultural center. They moved into a beautiful townhouse in Little Italy, just a few blocks from her grandmother's apartment. Elena learned to navigate Dante's world gradually, meeting the people who worked for him and understanding the complex web of loyalty and respect that held his organization together. It wasn't the violent, chaotic life she'd imagined from movies and television. Instead, it was a tightly knit community that took care of its own and protected those who couldn't protect themselves. She also discovered that Marcus had been right about one thing. Dante was dangerous, but his violence was controlled, purposeful, reserved for those who threatened the people under his protection. With Elena, he was gentle, patient, endlessly devoted. 6 months after that night in the hotel lobby, Dante proposed to Elena in the same restaurant where they'd had their first real dinner together. The ring was a vintage piece from the 1940s, an Art Deco design with a central diamond surrounded by sapphires that matched Elena's eyes perfectly. "It was my grandmother's," Dante explained as Elena stared at the ring in wonder. "She always said it should go to the woman who could make a Torino man believe in forever." "And you believe?" Elena asked, tears streaming down her cheeks. "With you? I believe in everything." Their wedding was held in the small church in Little Italy, where Elena's grandparents had been married 50 years earlier. Maria Rossetti walked Elena down the aisle, beaming with pride as she delivered her granddaughter into the arms of a man who looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. The reception was a blend of two worlds, Elena's artistic friends mingling with Dante's extended family, everyone united in their joy for the couple. As they danced their first dance as husband and wife, Elena looked up at Dante with wonder. "No regrets?" he asked softly. Elena thought about Marcus, about the life she'd almost settled for, about the woman she'd been just 6 months ago. Then she looked around the room at their friends and family, at her grandmother dancing with one of Dante's lieutenants, at the life she'd built with a man who loved every part of her. "Not a single one," she whispered and kissed him as their guests cheered around them. As the music swelled and Dante spun her around the dance floor, Elena marveled at how different her life had become. She'd lost everything that night in the hotel lobby, her fiancé, her home, her illusions about love and family. But in losing it all, she'd found something infinitely more valuable, herself, and a love that would last forever. The abandoned woman had become a cherished wife, the humiliated girl had become a confident woman, and the man who'd said "she's with me now" had kept his promise in every way that mattered. My mom says I can't hit 1,000 subscribes. Please prove her wrong and subscribe. Thank you for watching.